What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So, yeah, let's get into this one. So, just going to talk about the main event from Saturday's show, which took place in Birmingham. It's an arena that I've been to before myself to see the same boxer, Galal Yafai. I went to see him versus Sonny Edwards. Good atmosphere in there. Nice arena. It's about 30,000 seater, I believe. So, yeah, he took on Francisco Rodriguez, a guy that didn't have an unblemished or undefeated record, but he'd been in there and he'd been in with some of the best, Chocolatito Gonzalez, Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, that is. Great fighter, that guy. And he'd been the distance with some good opposition. And he was in there now against Galal Yafai. Going into this, pretty much Yafai, I think, for most people, for at least, I would say a majority, at least, yeah, roughly a majority of people was the favourite sort of going into this. He was the one with the sort of big promotional backing, but people on the inside in boxing knew that Francisco Rodriguez was dangerous because he's at least very tough, and the Mexicans are known to be warriors, and truly in this fight he proved to be just that, proved to be an absolute warrior. And what ended up happening, Galal finds up losing this fight on points. And at least in my view, from what I saw of the fight, watching it live, it was strictly down to tactical errors, let's just say the wrong tactics from Galal Yafai. He started off the fight quite well. He was boxing aggressive in the southpaw stance. He took some of the early rounds, let's say maybe a couple out of the first three, let's say two out of the first three. And then as the fight wore on from sort of 3, 4 and onwards, it was taking his familiar pattern of Yafai sort of trying to get forward, being on the front foot, and then Rodriguez, whenever Yafai landed, Rodriguez comes back with 3 or 4 of his own. And Yafai's sort of big mistake, at least in my opinion, was kind of being in punching range after he does his good work. So it was like he would be in there, he'd have his jab, he'd throw his combinations, lots of straight punches, but then he would stay there and wait. Almost, it was almost as if he kind of looked like he was waiting to be countered by Rodriguez, which was, to me, that was a big tactical error on the part of Yafai, because one thing I noticed in this fight was that Rodriguez really has got one way of fighting, and that's to come forward. That's to kind of have a brawl with you. Yes, he's sophisticated and he's accurate with his punching, Rodriguez, but really and truly, he's a guy that fights in one kind of style, which is he comes forward, he has a brawl with you, wings in the uppercuts and hooks, and he likes to have a brawl with you. He likes to be up close and personal, and he likes to fight at close range. And the big mistake that Yafai made from even early in the fight, round sort of 3, 4, was that he would do some good work. He would sometimes push Rodriguez back, but it was like all the good work he'd done got spoiled by the fact that he would land and then he'd stay there and then get hit, and there was no defense from Galal Yafai. The defense was basically non-existent. There was no head movement, none of this head movement, no bobbing and weaving. It was just like he would punch, then he would stay there, then he'd get hit. So it's like, I can understand why he lost it so clearly, because it's like you're showing you're showing the judges that you're getting hit, and you've got there was zero defense, zero head movement. It was very, it was a great fight to watch because there was lots of action and they went back and forth, and you fired his moments. But Rodriguez had his moments, and Rodriguez was quite dominant because it was his type of fight. And looking at it, I just thought Yafai needed to change things up, and it was, I found it quite worrying for Yafai in that yes, he showed great, he showed that warrior's heart. He showed a great heart in there. He showed a great mentality. He showed that he has no quit in him, and he showed a toughness and a punch resistance ability to take the shots. But the worrying thing was that he didn't show like a good boxing brain in there, because a trend with good fighters is that they can always adapt and they can always adjust. And when things are not going right for them, they always show an ability to adapt, to change what they're doing in the fight. So, I think early on in the fight, your fighter should have realized, oh, I can't brawl with this guy. I can't stay in the pocket with this guy. I've got to work, and I've got to at least use some movement. I've got to at least pivot. I've got to move my head. I've got to do something to where I'm not spoiling my good work and I'm not there to be hit by this guy. But because he didn't have anything in the locker, he didn't make any changes, he didn't make any adjustments, he was just doing the same thing over and over and over again, staying in the pocket, not moving his head, and just getting hit and getting countered. That's how the pattern continued. He ended up getting knocked down in the 12th and final round. And overall, it was pretty much just a sort of one sided beating from Rodriguez. And as I say, problem for Yafai was completely wrong tactics. What he should have done with this guy, and I know it's easier said than done, but what he should have done is tried to outbox Rodriguez. That's what he should have done. Yes, you can stand there and trade a little bit, but then you've got to step away. You've got to work and make sure he can't hit you, and you've got to be defensively responsible. And he had no defense, no head movement, and it was just the same thing and over again. And he just played into Rodriguez's hand and just basically gave Rodriguez the fight on a silver platter, because he had no answers, and he just didn't have any idea what to do. He kind of ran out of ideas in there. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out.